Good evening. This Tuesday, April 9th meeting of the Raymore Arts Commission will come to order. Ms. Harmer, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Barry?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Paris?
Present.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Gribble?
Here.
Commissioner Setzer?
Present.
Thank you.
Will you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? So we do have a quorum, and welcome visitors, those of you. It's always nice to have someone in the audience. Any public comments to be made? Anyone would like to have 5 minutes or less at the podium? No? Seeing none, then. And we have no presentations this evening, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we will go right into committee reports. The first committee update would be Commissioner Barry to talk about the Public Art Committee.
Thank you. We had our meeting last Friday to make room for the meeting with the artist J.T. Daniels. Let's see. Pat she had a conflict and was not able to attend. She missed a record-setting meeting, as we had 6, 7 maybe members of the public there. It's very cool. It's got to be a record. We started off with JT. He brought out some extra sketches. We've seen one initial early color sketch. I don't know if you guys, do they have access to all 3 sketches here?
They're at the bottom of the packet. I probably didn't give you access to scroll.
There'll be no scroll.
You do? Okay. Okay.
Are you able to put them up on the screen?
No.
No? Sorry.
Okay. Well, JT initially had one for us to look at earlier on, and we shared that, and he's got 2 more, the north side wall and the east side wall, the ref side, or the soccer side, I guess we'll call it, just to show what his plans are. As you can see, the concession side, also known as the north side, is not as colorful. He wanted that to be a little more muted, because the focus point really is, selling those foodstuffs there at the concession. He also mentioned that he picked some of his colors not just because they were, dynamic or bright, but he also actually went in and looked at some of the newer, I guess we're going to be changing out some playground equipment, and he kind of grabbed from that as well, so he wouldn't be completely out of the zone if we got something that didn't follow along with their palette. It was a really good meeting to witness. I liked his presentation. I liked what he had to talk about. He's up for, he wants us to bring this in front of everyone here. And he mentioned that he has a process for edits. If there's something we have that we want, or it's bothering us here or there, to bring it up. And what he would like is 3 different columns. Melissa, can you help me out? It was like a must-have.
The must-have would be nice, and just a suggestion that...
Yeah, just a suggestion. Okay, so if there's anything after you guys look at this, and if there's some edits that you're looking for, and remember, we did this with the last muralist. I believe we had some changes with a few focal points in that Memorial Park mural. So keep that in mind when we're looking at that. Let's see. Anyway, we approved the sketches to be shown to you guys. Then we talked about some of the other things going on, including we'll be taking over the curating of the 3D space for artwork, the shelf space here in front of the chambers, and we'll be taking that. I think the notices went out this week to the historical and was it Tri-County? Okay. And let's see. Oh, I did update my proposal for the Little Free Library system. So it's attached here as well. Take a look at that when you can, and we can talk about that. If you have any suggestions or comments about it now, that's fine. If you don't, happy to talk to you next time. Let's see. We also discussed a banner redesign. We're looking to see some new banners both here in the circle as well as initial banners for the highway, larger banners. And they're just in development right now. Nothing's really have gone forward, so we have nothing to show yet. And lastly, we discussed a little bit of pop-up art with Summer Scene, and whether we wanted to stay with the Adirondack chair or if we wanted to look for another type of focal point for our pop-up art. And we kind of leans towards sticking with this since it's gaining a popularity. People seem to recognize it, so. And that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot.
I might add that we did talk about, in terms of the pop-up art, again, buying chairs so that we have wooden chairs available to people who can't otherwise get them locally, and that helped a lot. And what was the other thing that I just thought of that went right out of my mind? And in terms of the little libraries, really, everybody should read the revised proposal. And it goes into a totally different way of approaching this, which may take a bit of thought and conversation and maybe a little help from the Community Development Department.
Exactly.
So if you all would spend some time on that before our next public art meeting, it would be real helpful. And Bob has been really persevering in this, and he's really determined that it's going to happen.
And feel free to email me with your comments too. If it's not something you can want to wait until next month, I'm fine with that. I'll definitely copy it all to Mike and Melissa.
Okay. Sharon?
Yes, in your memo, you had mentioned that you were going to speak with the Silver Lake person, and if it would be helpful if you could share those comments with us before the next meeting, just so we get an idea of where we might have to go.
Definitely. I haven't connected with her yet. I'll reach out again. My brother is currently the president of that particular homeowners association, so I kind of picked his brain a little bit, and he mentioned just a couple of instances of people leaving like a diaper in there instead of books or something. So that kind of stuff may happen, but as long as we focus on, and that's something you'll see at the Little Free Library website as well, well lit. Usually that's well traveled, so there's a lot of traffic. People are less inclined to be mischievous. So,
Any other questions? Lauren?
I had just a couple questions. One is, what will you do in areas that don't have HOA? Because there are some subdivisions that don't have HOA. And then the second question I had is, what support do you need from us?
well, as far as the HOA question, I think that's just our initial first phase. Let's reach out to these guys because they have a vehicle where we can make this happen with them. We can run into situations later where there are a further phase, and I've got it written down in here. You'll see maybe we reach out to businesses or churches or other organizations if they want something in front of their property, and we'll treat that a little differently than we would with HOA. We're happy to put them on an overall map that goes into each one of the book exchanges that shows, hey, here's where they all are in Raymore. But they would probably take most of the cost themselves because it's also increasing traffic for their business. And what was your second question? I'm sorry. Oh, from you guys? Comments like that, questions like that, ideas. Hey, Bob, let's also, don't forget, let's do this. So.
I have, yes.
Laura?
On the concession stand, the painting on the concession stands, if I remember right, maybe you said this and I was just looking at it and not focusing, but I thought that one side was going to be his, or two sides was going to be his, and then two sides were going to be our people painting it. Are we still doing that? And I only see 3 sides.
We only see 3 sides because there is an unfinished sketch of the restroom side, the south side.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we're missing that. Good, thanks, by the way, completely forgot to mention that. I guess the west side, the one closest to the shelter and the parking lot, is basically his canvas. He wants to really, work with that and go to town. And if you look on his website, I noticed there was a juice store that he did a nice wall on. And if you see some of the detail in that, if that seems to be where he wants to go with it. And if so, yay, that's going to be great. The other one he's going to, what we're planning to have, and Harriet, you can talk about this or expand on this as well. He wants to have like a couple of times maybe where people come out and help him do like a base paint of some of these sections. Okay. He'll go in with the details, but yeah, to help, basically to get the community in and get some ownership in this as well. And I think that's.
He would probably already have it drawn out.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
yes,
know.
definitely.
I thought it was gonna be just
He's not letting us go to
willy-nilly.
town, no.
Okay, good.
No, and he actually made it really clear that he did not want really young kids helping, and really not a huge group of people. And it wouldn't be on a day when there would be lots of people out there. It would perhaps be invitation, kind of, maybe middle school art teachers class, something like that. But I do want to point out that we're going to talk about this a bit more. So unless there's another clarification that we can make, let's save the discussion for the new business section, and we can go into it in more detail. I do wish that the audience were able to see the pictures, but I don't know how we can do that.
Here, I have,
Print out?
I brought some colored pictures, so if, Melissa, if you want to just show them around.
Okay, any other questions other than talking about that particular issue, which we will take up later? That's it? Okay. All right. Lauren, talk about Performance Art Committee meeting.
Thank you, Harriet. Harriet, Sharon, and I got together at our last meeting and just continue kind of to expand on our conversation built around our summer concert series. We obviously have a couple dates that we want to go with and a couple bands that Melissa's going to be reaching out to plan that. We've got some very, very interesting, diverse groups, a little bit different than what we did last year. So I think once we get everything planned, I think it'll definitely be something exciting. Family Talk, Sharon talked about our family art days. Obviously, we're going to be partnering with Dave's Bike Shop when they do their event to do some rock painting there with the kids. Gonna do our flower pot painting in June. And then finally, we talked about summer scenes. Melissa has gotten Betsy Ellis booked. So she will be a very, very welcome sight, very, very good entertainer. I did reach out to Jim Heath. He is definitely willing and available. So we'll kind of have to work out some of the details as far as time and things of that nature. And we will continue to kind of expand on that as we get closer to the date. Obviously, we'll have our committee that gets together and kind of helps plan summer scenes and things of that nature. And then we've had a very, very fluid conversation about a film festival that we'd like to do out here. So we're kind of working through some of those details, trying to get something locked in. So we'll continue to expand on that. And once we come up with a finalized plan, we will report out. That's all. Any questions?
So Melissa, whom do we have booked at this point for both Summer Scene and for the 2 concerts at Centerview? Have you got-
Sorry. I'm still working with getting our June summer concert confirmed, the country night.
Okay.
But I do have July's with the St. Paradise Steel Drum Band, so it'll be kind of an island night, Caribbean theme. I think it'll be really fun. And that is, I think, July 12th, if that's a Friday night. And for Summer Scene, thank you, Lauren, for speaking with Jim. I hadn't heard back from him yet. But hopefully, if he is willing, then we'll have Rock You America students open up the musical part, open up the music, and then Betsy Ellis with her husband, the duo. And then our headliners will be The Heat, which is our very own Detective Don Shepard and his band. And so we have 3 of those, and we'll keep working on little fill-ins of entertainment here and there. And actually, anyone wanting to be on the committee to help me plan, get in touch with me.
Well, and you'll send out sort of some meeting dates that we can, and some things that we can help you with.
When I know who wants to be on the committee, maybe we can work out a schedule that will work for all of us. Yes.
Okay, so you're asking for volunteers at this point?
Yes.
Okay, all right, everybody hear that? Okay. Any? Okay, Sharon, as an observer of your workshop the other day for kite making, you spent so much time, and I didn't get to see the end of it, but I'm absolutely sure that it was a great success. And the amount of time that you put into some of these workshops is just incredible, including the night before and weeks before that, and to do all of that planning. But it was such a joy to be there and just experience what little bit I got to experience. And you say, of course, that the parents do it all, but that's not true. We know that. So, so now you can do any catching up that you want. We've gone through the whole year before, but if you have any new information or need any.
No, I just appreciate your comments, and again, it was, Mother Nature. We had a full class of about 40 signed up, but Mother Nature snowed that morning, so we ended up with about 20, which was a good size, and everybody had fun. It was a fun thing, but we do have leftover kites, so it possibly is something we can use during summer scene as an activity for children. Laura and Harriet are going to be running the Kindness Rocks painting this Saturday at Centerview. Then in June, it's, again, the flower pot painting and plants. And July, it's a nature project. And I can't remember what we're doing in August. Oh, summer scene, duh. Summer scene, and then the fall we've got planned out. So I think we've shared all those details already, so I'm not going to rehash them. But it's fun, and just want to thank anybody who can come out, even if it's just to see and take pictures or just see the activity, that would be great. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, any questions? And Laura, I'm going to be there, but would you need some other help from commissioners that day?
I would love it.
This Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday.
10 o'clock.
So, yes, and you don't really have to know how to paint a stick figure, just a dot or two and some words. That's it.
A dot or two and some words. And this is called Kindness Rocks. And do we, after we've painted them, do we leave them for particular people, or do we leave them to be found somewhere?
I'm hoping that we will have them do 2 rocks, and one they'll leave somewhere and one they'll take with them.
Okay, okay. So, anybody else up here that wants to help out? It sounds like a good time to me. I'm looking forward to my,
There's a little history lesson, too.
okay. Okay, can't be bad. Any questions about that, folks? Now we come to the staff report section, and Melissa, you want to talk about the budget?
I don't believe anything has changed since last month too much. So you'll see in your packet that I have allocated some money for summer scene and the summer concerts, but I haven't spent that yet. So right now, $10,964 is still available for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Well, and we pretty much have identified how to spend almost every dollar of that, correct? But it's
Yes.
kind of interesting, we're about halfway through the fiscal year, we've spent about half of our money, and the other half we have big plans for. So that seems pretty appropriate.
I think we're on track.
Okay. Any questions of Melissa about that, folks? Okay. Then, we'll talk again about summer scene. How about that?
Again, whoever would like to be on the committee to help plan, I definitely welcome your ideas and help. And while I do have the musical elements kind of already figured out, there's a lot of other things to do and things to hash out about the new event space that we'll be using this year at Centerview and outside of Centerview. So definitely get in touch with me.
How many people are you looking for from up here?
Honestly, anyone who thinks they have the time and the ideas, and even if you can only come for a meeting here or there, we'll probably meet once a month until we get closer, so.
Sharon, did you have a question?
No,
Oh,
I just, I've been on it before, so I'm raising my hand to help volunteer, so.
anybody else? Okay. Well, Melissa, great work so far, and it's going to be a challenge at this location. I mean, I'm having trouble picturing it myself, but I know you've got an idea. Blocking off a bit of,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. Because it's going to be, if we have the number of people that we've had in the past, we're going to fill every space down here in Municipal Circle and then out onto whatever that road is over there and more.
Yes.
So it'll be a real challenge this year. So, but the year after that, we've got big plans. Okay, thank you. The next section of our agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for the March meeting. If we hear no corrections, additions, amendments, or anything, then we will consider that the minutes are approved. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. And we have no unfinished business that I can think of or that is on the agenda unless someone has a suggestion. Which brings us to new business, which is not actually new business because this has been going on for quite a while. But this is the point at which we'll talk about the Public Art Committee's recommendation to the commission to accept the mural that has been suggested and you see on your screens by J.T. Daniels, based on the conversations we had with him. So this is a point at which we can kind of have a pretty in-depth conversation, questions you might have, issues you might have with any of the design or whatever. And then the two possibilities are that we will have a motion, after some discussion, we will have a motion that the commission accepts the design as presented, as recommended by the Public Art Committee, or that the design be sent back for reconsideration to the Public Art Committee. So there are different, I looked this up in Robert's Rules of Order because it's kind of, so if we vote as a body to approve the recommendation to accept the design as is, it takes a majority vote. If we decide that we want, if the motion is to send it back to the committee for reconsideration because of some issues that are brought up here, it takes a 2/3 vote, which is like 5.6 people. But anyway, so it's a little different. So it takes a little bit more of a vote to reconsider than it does to approve, just so we're clear. So, having said that, the floor is open for comment and suggestions. I would say I'd like everybody to have an opportunity to say something at least once before we go back around and talk to other people. Bob, do you want to do any more sort of opening the conversation based on the conversations that we had with JT, or do you want to just open it for questions?
Sure, yeah. I think, well, one of the reasons why we, as a committee, picked JT Daniels was because of his bold, dynamic style. And you can go to his website and see some of the other artwork he's done to see how just great this guy is. And luckily, he's local. I think looking at this, I would love to say, yes, this is something that appeals to me, but it also, I want to see the restroom side too, you know? I understand we're approving these three, and I understand we'll be waiting for, and we'll, I guess, then look at, again, with fresh eyes, that last canvas. And then, again, is that when we also make an approval, or do we do it for the whole entire package?
At this point, the recommendation is for the package.
Okay,
That's what we voted on at the Public Art Committee
Okay.
meeting.
all right.
That can change. I mean, we can present that, you can present that as a motion after we've heard discussion from everybody.
Yeah, and-
So questions, that would be a question.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop right there because there's a whole bunch of other people up here who may have questions or comments. You guys, begin, please.
Okay, let me start, don't want to pick on you, Pat, but, but I am, because you weren't able to be at the committee meeting, but you have been in on the 2 years leading up to this and the process that we've been through to get to this point. So what are your comments, questions, ideas?
Yes. I have been a part of this for the past year or so on this. I showed the artwork to my husband. I didn't, the original stuff we had, I had one side, but I didn't happen to share it with him. I don't know why. But when the stuff came out at the end of last week with the three, I showed it to him. And he had a negative reaction to it. And his basic thing was, and I asked why, because I said, I've spent my life as a musician. I didn't hang out in parks. There was no organized stuff for girls back then. We weren't playing. They didn't get to do that. That was for the guys. But my husband took part in all those. And he said, where is that part? He said, what are they? This could be anywhere. Because where's the little leaguers? Where's the soccer kids? Where's that? And why are they going to be wondering where that is? Those were his thoughts. And I asked him to come tonight, and since he's been sick for 3 days and has hardly any voice, he declined. But I thought I would share that because I thought he did have a point. I love the colors, but he said, "Why that exactly there? What makes it fit there and not someplace else in town?" So those were his comments. So I thought I'd share them.
And obviously, it had an effect on you, too.
It did, because it made me think more about the place. Like I said, there was no organized sports for girls when I was growing up. By the time I got to college, I got to play college basketball, but that was inside. The guys in the summertime all got to do this, and we stayed home. So I didn't ever think about that. That wasn't anything that ever occurred to me. It's a building.
Okay, thanks. And thanks to your husband. Jim, do you have a reaction or some ideas or questions?
I don't really have too much to say about it. I guess we've got to start somewhere, and this is as good a start as anything. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Lauren.
At first glance, I completely missed it. So I actually looked twice, and I think when I looked the second time is when everything began to kind of pop out. And to me, what it really represents is fun, which is what you're at a park for. It ties in a lot of different things that you probably don't see when you initially look at it, like, you know, showing the different colors represent, or to me, represent the different types of people that we have in Raymore. He actually mixed some pictures of young and old collectively, which I thought was a pretty cool bridge as well. So I think it fits. I will say that I kind of didn't really think about the sports side of it. So I would say that may be something that we bring to him. We also have an extra side that we could use to accentuate maybe some of that. So maybe we can add that to the fourth side, even though it is the bathroom side. I think people will still kind of take a look at what it is on all four sides. So I actually liked it. I think it's a good representation of a park, and what typically you will see. The color is very, very dynamic, which I think which will be the main focal point that I think will kind of pop out to just about anybody that goes to see it. So I like it.
Sharon?
Well, at first I thought, geez, JT must be right from my era, because I looked at this, I said, oh my God, I'm back in college in the 60s. And I said, Led Zeppelin, you know, all the rock groups, the albums back from the 60s. That's what I thought of when I saw this. I said, I mean, I love the colors. I think, you know, it's quite different. Like Pat, I showed it to my husband, and he was not as enamored about it as I was. But, you know, he and I saw different things when we were in the 60s, so maybe that says something about me, I don't know. But the one thing that again, the sports element, you know, I think there probably should be. I didn't see anything in this that really looked like sports related. If somehow we could put something in there, even though it's going to be very stylized, maybe something relating to sports, just because you're going to have adults out there as well as kids. Young people probably would really dig this. I mean, they'd really like it. The colors are fantastic. I love the bold colors. And obviously when we did the seed pod and the tree, that was quite unique for the city to have something like that. And this is unique too, but I think it's you know, it's a different direction, but ultimately I just think it is fun. The one thing that kind of bugs me about this is that not one person or face, the eyes are open. All the eyes are closed. If you look, there's not one face that has eyes looking out. They're all looking down. And that kind of bugs me. Like, you know, why can't you show somebody's full face, show eyes looking at you? You know, like I say.
It's funny you say that, because that's one of the things I noticed, not from all of them, but from some of them. And I realized that it's almost like that thing you'll see on social media where the eyes have turned into the mouths of the person. If you look at them, they all look like little smiles.
Yeah. I mean, I happen to like it because it's so reminiscent of my youth. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what he's going to do for the fourth wall.
Okay, Laura?
Oh, boy. Because the first time I saw it, all I could think of was the many times I took high school students downtown to see graffiti, because that's what it looks like, you know, and it just, to me, it does not fit with Raymore, especially the one that says, "What's up?" You know, just, I know, I do like the colors. In fact, I like the last one better.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just because that's just me. I'm old. But I look at the one that says, "What's up?" and there's so many phallic things. I don't think that's I think we need to tell him to not do that, because as a teacher of high school students, they will see that, because that was the first thing I saw. And I definitely would want to see the fourth wall. before. I wouldn't want to do it as saying, yeah, go ahead, it's great. Because for the couple things I see on this page. But other than that, it does seem to me like the first picture, the second picture, they go well together. The third picture does not go. It's like a totally different thing. So if, and this is, I'm being really picky, I would tell him, if you are doing something on the fourth wall, maybe do something that's similar to the last picture that has, I agree with the sports thing. I think that'd be great to have that on there. But it looks too much overload, 2 graffiti and 1 a pretty picture type of thing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I got the phallic part, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think high school students we'd be a laughing stock. And you don't want that.
Right. Interesting. Well, you know that population better than the rest of us, I would say. Well, except those of us who've had teenagers, and then we all know that. Okay. From my standpoint, and thinking about, I mean, I love the colors, I love the concepts. I didn't see what you just were talking about originally. I didn't see the eyes looking down either. Having heard some comments from other people in terms of the lack of any sports-related theme, or at least part of it, I got to thinking about the process that we've been doing, and I thought about the process that we did for the Memorial Park, and Laura, you weren't here for that, and Jim, but when we did the mural for Memorial Park, we chose the artist. He gave us a concept. We chose him because he had done interesting art for sort of historical buildings in small cities. And he presented us with something that he had done a lot of research about Raymore, even though he's from Excelsior Springs. And then we commented, well, that's the wrong tribe of Indian that you've portrayed, and that's not a truly native plant to this part. And so he changed those things. And so through that process, I think we came to a better, I don't want to say product, but piece of art, more representational of our city and what we were looking for that particular place. This is a totally different thing, of course, and I mean, the colors I think are appropriate, but I do miss having had that part, and partly that's my fault for being a member of the committee and not bringing it up at the meeting last week. But it has come to my attention and sort of weighed on me a bit since that meeting. And say again, Bob, what JT said are the 3 things that, or Melissa maybe, the 3 things that go into making
He had 3 categories that he wanted to have from us.
From us.
You know, the must needs to happen, the nice to have, and then kind of a wish list.
So I guess, from my standpoint, and I'll start, and then everybody, I would say it needs to have some sports-related characters, or, I mean, he can come up with how to relate it to, but that's what the park is all about. Just as Memorial Park was about remembering, this is a park about sports. So that's my comment, and then, do you want to start all over again? And anybody else want to make an additional, like, what we really want to see, what would be nice? How does it go? Must. Right. So, any must-haves would be nice, or wish list? Anyone on this side? Pat, you want to start? No, you don't have to. I'm just picking on you, because you can take it.
That's something that should be done in committee, or just is the public of what we
Well,
individually?
It is what we think individually, and then we can base what we think we can make, we can have a motion to either reconsider or to approve.
Harriet,
Yes.
if I'm listening, if hearing everybody, it sounds like, the big three right now are, we want to see more some sports theme of some type, just introduced into at least one or two of these walls. This is, you must have. Also, less sup.
Yes.
And lastly, I think we're looking to introduce a little more color into the transition wall that's on the north side where the concession is. And if it's going to stay at that cool side wall, that it should also probably be similar on the other, the south wall, the restaurant wall, and be that kind of cool yet with a little more color. Is that right? Is there anything, we
I
missing anything?
agree, or tone down just a little bit the other two walls, so that it's not like bright, not bright.
Gotcha.
Also, I think it would be nice if we included things that we know we have in this town that youth do. Football, band, cheering, dance. I don't know, if maybe that's too much, and if it is, or skateboarding, because we have a skateboard park. Things that our kids do that we know they do here. That may be too much.
It sounds very broad.
Yes.
It sounds like starting all over again.
Yeah, it does.
And yeah. Anybody else? Sharon, do you have a must-have?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I like it because it speaks to my past, but the more I think about what the city is and who all attends that area, and it's not to say that this wouldn't grow on them after a period of time, because that happens. That happens. But I agree with Laura in that, maybe some of it could be toned down a little bit. The sports element, definitely. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he represented. What did he say these were supposed to represent? I don't know. I'm not even sure what they are. Those little characters at the bottom, I don't know what those are supposed to be.
Those are sort of his signature characters in a
Oh,
way.
they are.
They appear in a lot of his art. And I'm not sure how much we can actually ask him to start all over and do, but we're here to listen, so, okay. Lauren?
I don't want us to lose sight of the young element. We're getting very, very deep into wording and what that means. I mean, and sup is what kids say. And we don't like it per se because it doesn't sound proper, but it is appropriate for a certain age group, whether or not we like it or not. And I think if we go back to our days as kids, we said things that our parents probably said that is not proper English either. So I don't want to get so carried away in that. When you look at a representation of what Raymore is, this says that it's a lot of things, which I think is what Raymore is. I don't know that it necessarily nails down everything, but I don't think you're going to get everything either. So that's kind of a challenge too. The sports element, I think, is a must-have that we all kind of feel, but I think outside of that, art is going to say different things to different people. So you're going to get people that love it, some people that think it's just okay, some people that say absolutely not. We're not going to be able to please everybody. And I think we have to be careful when we critique that we make sure that we understand that. I think you can take the other painting and people say, well, people that have no idea what the history of Raymore is that live here, so they don't get it either. So people are going to say the same thing about this. How does it represent Raymore? And to some people, they're going to see it. Some people aren't going to see it. And I think that's what art is, honestly, is people take their own interpretation of what they see. So I think it's important for us to kind of remember that as we look at this. Really, if anything, the picture's so dynamic that it makes the roof look bad. You know, could we paint the roof to bring it out, to make it all match? But I think we have to be careful, because one thing I will say is if I was out at a sporting event, I would probably go buy snacks, because this actually draws me to that wall. And once I get there, again, it's going to be inviting to participate in whatever's going on there as well. So just kind of wanted to point out those pieces. I don't want to get so lost in every single detail that we say that we're asking him to start over, because I think this is a really, really, really strong piece. I don't think it necessarily calls to everybody that may visit the park, but I definitely think it calls to the kids. I think it's inviting to most people that I would say appreciate just life and vibrancy in general.
And there's a reason that we chose him in the first place, and part of that was the vibrancy of his work. Okay, any other, have we about exhausted sort of everybody's basic fundamental reactions? And thank you for that, Lauren. If so, it sounds to me as though we need a motion to send this recommendation back to the committee for reconsideration and convey to the artist the, give me again, the must-haves, particularly the must-haves. Perhaps not the we would really like or wouldn't it be nice, but at least the must-haves seem to be pretty universal in terms of some need to have a relationship to what the park is all about, and that's sports. Is there, do I have anybody who's not feeling that way? Sharon?
One last comment. As we were talking about the diversity of the Raymore, in looking at these drawings of people, I see mostly older people, teenagers, older adults, the guy with the beard, the sunglasses, but I don't see any real young children. I mean, it would be, I mean, I'm sure he could, I don't see anybody that looks really young. I see teenagers, adults, but I don't really see any young children. And, you know, perhaps that's represented in the little figures at the bottom.
Now, I think one of the things he did, and if you look at it, if you really, really stare at it, he almost did a bridge in some cases of old and young. You know, when you look at the guy with the beard that has the hat on, that's more of a bridge picture. So I think you have to look at it, and you're going to see it from your own lens. What you don't see, I see pieces of it. And I think what he did was more of a bridge. You see the teenager, and I believe it's the first picture on the end with the hat on, which could be appropriate for really any kid, really. So I think you really just kind of have to stare at it. And again, I think you're going to take your own interpretation of what you see. I think some people will see it, some people won't, and until you point it out, sometimes that's where people will go back and look and say, oh, it is there. And like I said, he actually did to me, a really cool job of creating bridges of different age groups into one actual image.
And one of the things we talked about with him was what he's showing here is diversity in ages, and as he said, everything except race, really. But diversity is a theme of and it is also a theme of what Raymore Community Conversations came up with wanting more of in our city. So either accidentally or psychically, he obviously got that. Okay, any other final comments before I I will ask now for a motion. I can state it myself and then ask for somebody to do it, or I can ask for someone to state the, oh, I'm sorry. Does someone want to state the motion? Then I will. The chair would recognize, would accept a motion to send this design back to the Public Art Committee for its next meeting for reconsideration and to further discussion with the artists based on particularly the issue of relating it to, in some way, to sports, to the venue in which it serves. Thank you. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion of that motion? Yes, Sharon.
So just clarify what will happen. You'll go back with the recommendation that you review the design and do the must-haves, the three things, review those with him?
The
And-
one thing is what I was particularly including in the motion myself.
Okay,
My motion, as stated, was if you want to amend that motion, okay, but otherwise, I would say that is the one thing that we all seem to agree on. Is that okay? So I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand, please. It is unanimous. Aren't we wonderful? Okay. Okay, thank you all. This is a time now for commissioner comments. I do want to start with a couple things myself, and that is we are going to have a work session instead of a commission meeting, probably in June. We want to talk about specifically how we can increase funding for the arts, particularly performance arts and public art, through the commission. And I've had a little discussion with the mayor, and he wants to be part of that. So he wasn't available for our May meeting, so we are going to have that work session in June. And we may include other city leaders in that. I'm thinking Mr. Carteret in terms of homeowners associations and that kind of thing. And then in July, we will meet with the city council for our annual work session with them, but that's on their time. That is, those are my comments. Anyone else have any final comments? Sharon?
yes, I forgot to mention that we are in the process of having Got Art sign people up for the paint and sip party on April 25th. All that registration goes through Got Art, and people who want to attend will be paying their own way. So any kind of small amount of money that we might spend would be maybe just for a little bit of snacks or something. But people will be registering through Got Art. It's not through the city. So we're hoping for a good turnout.
Lauren?
Bob, I want to say thank you for continuing to work on the free little library. I think it's a really great idea, so, anything that I can do to support you in that, I'm more than happy to do it, because I think we all can agree that literacy is super important, and so the more reading that we can get our kids to do, it will be very important in their futures as they progress. And also, this has been the longest meeting we've had in some time, but I really enjoyed the conversation of how we really broke this down and kind of worked together to work through some of the things that we don't agree with, want improved. I think as we move forward, it's important for us to do this just so that we make sure we maintain our ability to diversely talk through things like this, because ultimately this is going to be here as a piece of art probably forever, for a very long time. So we definitely want to nail it down as close as we can get. So I think that having this open dialogue is very important.
Anybody else? I will say also that Jim Gribble has agreed to work on the education working group, and will be supporting all of the activities, most of the activities coming up, which have all been planned for the rest of the year. So you've got your work cut out for you now. Any other comments? All right. The chair will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned. Thank you all.